Legacy Precious Metals is the company that I trust to give you good and patient counsel for investing in your retirement. The Biden administration has caused a financial crisis, and they have no clue how to fix it. Oil prices have skyrocketed, and when oil prices go up, not only do your expenses go up, but the cost of transportation and shipping spikes, leading the prices of goods to rise. And we are already seeing record inflation. That's the last thing that we need. Our economy is in trouble, and you need to take steps to protect yourself. If all your money is tied up in stocks, bonds, and traditional markets, you may be vulnerable. So gold is one of the very best ways to protect your retirement. No matter what happens, you own your own gold. It's real, it's physical, and it's always been valuable since the dawn of time. Call Legacy Precious Metals today at 866-528-1903 or visit them online at legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com, where you can download the free investor's guide. You can also go to my Facebook page, Jenna Ellis. I am a public figure on Facebook, and I just posted yesterday a really great interview with the president of Legacy Precious Metals, who is discussing why you need to start your retirement account even if you're in your 20s or 30s. There is always a great time to protect your retirement and invest, just like you want to protect your health over the long term. So go to Legacy Precious Metals at legacypminvestments.com or call 866-528-1903.
As a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor, and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Ellis Show. I'm Jenna Ellis, and today we are covering the global red wave. Yes, I truly believe that we will have a red wave across the country of the United States of America, from Pennsylvania and Doug Mastriano down to the re-election in Florida of Ron DeSantis, across to Arizona and Kari Lake, and up to Michigan and Tudor Dixon, and everywhere in between. But the important piece of news that you may have missed over the weekend is the election of Italy's newest prime minister, who is their first female, which great, but even more important than that, and I say this as a woman, and yes, we can define what woman is, the new prime minister, Giorgia Meloni, is an outspoken, outstanding Christian conservative who articulated so well why everyone who is remotely concerned about individual rights and liberties and the truth and conservatism across the world is rejecting the far progressive leftist LGBTQIAA++, the World Economic Forum, and their attempt at the Great Reset, and all of this that has been going on as a coordinated global movement. And this is actually really exciting. I think you need to be encouraged by this, because the mainstream media, of course, freaked out over her election just this past weekend and said, this is a far right-wing radical, Christian nationalist, like they like to paint all of the Republicans here. And yet, this is the people of Italy standing up like other countries are doing around the world and saying, no, we have had enough. And so as part of her speech, and I actually just want to read to you the little bit of this transcript because, of course, it's in Italian, but she, I think, articulates what is so perfectly a great example of why conservatism needs to be preserved and protected throughout the world, not just here in America, but also in Italy and across, the four corners of the globe. So this is what she had to say. She says, please answer me these questions. This is about what we are doing here today. Why is the family an enemy? Why is the family so frightening? There is a single answer to all of these questions, because it defines us, because it is our identity, because everything that defines us is now an enemy. For those who would like us to no longer have an identity and to simply be perfect consumer slaves. So they attack national identity. They attack religious identity. They attack gender identity. They attack the family identity. I can't define myself as Italian, Christian, woman, mother. No. I must be citizen X, gender X, parent 1, parent 2. I must be a number, because when I'm only a number, when I no longer have an identity or roots, then I will be the perfect slave at the mercy of financial speculators, the perfect consumer. And the crowd goes wild and they're applauding. So she pauses and she says, this is the reason why. That's why we inspire so much fear. That's why this event inspires so much fear. Because we do not want to be numbers. We will defend the value of the human being. Every single human being, because each of us has a unique genetic code that is unrepeatable. And like it or not, that is sacred. We will defend it. We will defend God, country, and family. Those things that disgust people so much, we will do it to defend our freedom, because we will never be slaves and simple consumers at the mercy of financial speculators. That is our mission. That is why I came here today. Chesterton wrote more than a century ago, quote, fires will be kindled to testify that 2 and 2 make 4. Swords can be drawn to prove that leaves are green in summer. That time has arrived. We are ready. Thank you. Now, that I think brilliantly encapsulates exactly what we are fighting for across the globe, for the truth of reality, and how she articulates this as we are losing our identity because we are just becoming a number in a system and given to financial speculators. That's exactly what's happening with this whole gender identity nonsense, because when you have this sort of fluid, gender is a spectrum and the family can be redefined however you want. If you want to have 3 moms and 2 dads, if you want to have, just a group of friends that can call yourselves family, and this started very innocuously with, the TV show called Friends, ironically, where, they said, well, relationships come and go, but friends, we're the true family because we're forever, and you can choose your family. And they're trying to redefine all of this slowly but surely on a spectrum. And when you have, gender identity on a spectrum, when you have the traditional family, moms and dads and children and human life, and at the value at its conception being redefined, of course, with Stacey Abrams talking last week about how a heartbeat is just manufactured by men who want to try to force women to love their kids. They're trying to redefine our immutable characteristics that are part of our humanity on a spectrum. And when you have this spectrum and you don't have clear definitions of who you are as human beings made in the image of God, and you don't have contours and parameters and concrete understanding of reality, everything gets blurred. And that's exactly what they're trying to do, because when your gender identity and your family and your religious identity and anything else that is part of intrinsically who you are, and of course religion being who you are in relation to God, and while some people have perverted notions and beliefs of religion that they're entitled to believe, but do not reflect truth of our nature and our relationship with God, then when you redefine those things or you blur those definitions, she's absolutely right. Then this just becomes a nonsensical, non-concrete way of just commoditizing human beings. And so then we become just consumers. And that's what we've seen with this whole pro-abortion industry that is so anti-life that they're commoditizing children. That's what we're seeing with these, the drag queen story time that is over-sexualizing children, that's saying you can be and do anything that you want without concrete definitions. Love is love, right? There is no contour and parameter and barrier to what is right and good and true versus what is evil and dark and perverted, right? And so they're trying to remove all barriers to make not only the perfect consumer, but also in the context of course, the LGBT kind of pharmaceutical consumer. That's what we're seeing, of course, as well with the whole gender identity movement. That, you know, these people who are on hormones that will have surgeries that are absolutely mutilating and brutalizing their bodies. All of these things that will make them lifelong patients of big pharma. And when they then have to have the elites and the quote unquote authority tell them what is approved in terms of what is a woman, what isn't a woman, what is the spectrum of gender identity, then they are only looking to the authority for the final word and approval on reality. And we have to reject all of these notions. And I think we are rejecting all of these notions because it is so far beyond the pale. It is so evil. It is on purpose trying to redefine human beings separate and apart from our true identity and our relationship with God to turn us into mere consumers. And, you know, this new prime minister, I think, hit this so spot on. And what's so encouraging about this red wave that is now global, and we've seen, you know, not only with her election, what we're seeing with, you know, Britain's new prime minister, what we're seeing with, you know, other countries that are standing up and saying, you know, no, enough is enough. What we saw with, you know, Tucker Carlson's interview a few months ago with Brazil's president, who, you know, is a stalwart conservative who is standing up firmly for the right of people to make their own medical decisions when it comes to COVID and the vaccine. I mean, just, you know, basic things like this that don't turn us into mere animals and consumers of the byproduct of what the World Economic Forum and these Marxist globalists want to create and turn us into. And so when she says, you know, the time has arrived and we are ready, we have to gain courage that the truth is always worth fighting for. And, you know, I can't stand when my fellow conservatives and counterparts are saying, you know, only some battles are worth fighting and, you know, you can't win them all and we have to focus on only certain things. Well, every fight that's worth fighting is worth fighting, right? And when we're seeing the kind of weaponizing of political office, of public office, of you know, the big pharma industry, big tech with censorship, you know, all of this kind of mass coordinated effort, we have to stand up and push back. And the good news here is that people are waking up to this. There have been protests, there have been elections that have gone really well, like this new prime minister in Italy. There are people that are standing up rightfully and lawfully, morally, saying, no, we will not allow you to redefine reality. You don't have the power, you don't have the legitimacy, and we will not put up with it. And so this red wave is not only here in America, but it is global. And I think that America can not only be at the forefront of this with our own election in November, with the midterms, and then heading into 2024, but I think that we can truly harness that energy and take this global in the sense that this isn't just a localized battle here in America. This is something that is spanning, you know, we've seen the coordinated efforts with the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset that is just being rejected across a lot of nations. And that is very encouraging. So when we are standing for truth here in America, we aren't standing alone. And that becomes really important, not just on the world stage, but it becomes important to give and gain courage in our own elections and in our own churches, in our own families, in the privacy of our own homes and in the public square, to stand up for truth, because truth is always worth fighting for. So there's a great piece by my good friends at the Gateway Pundit that are also embedded in a video of new Prime Minister Meloni, and that headline is incredibly important, and they embed a recent speech from her. And so the headline is "Recent Speech by Italy's New Leader, Giorgia Meloni, Shows Her Love for God and family and homeland. And so you can click on that piece and see her entire speech. It's about 15 minutes, but she's talking about conservatism. And she actually, in that speech as well, highlights her respect for Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, which is, I think, another reason that the leftists are so strongly opposing her, are afraid of her, and calling her, this radical right winger, because she is not accepting any of those rhetorical labels. She's simply standing up for the truth, and she's recognizing that, like Ronald Reagan did, Donald Trump is also standing firm. And so two of the most stalwart advocates for truth who are running their own races are also joining me today. So this is, the red wave that is coming. So in just a moment, I'm going to have Senator Doug Mastriano on, responding to another story that's in the news that you might not have heard about, with this crazy, overreaching, weaponized Joe Biden FBI and what he is going to do to change Pennsylvania. And then after that, I also caught up with my good friend, Congressman Jim Jordan, over the weekend, and we spoke on the phone. So I will also have that conversation for you right after this. All right. Well, 2022 is going to be a critical year for America. AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, along with their nearly 2 million members. The fight to stop out-of-control spending in the president's Build Back Better scheme is far from over, and Congress is plotting more legislation that could hurt our seniors. The midterm elections will be a battle for freedom versus socialism. Unlike liberal groups, AMAC is America's conservative, action-oriented 50-plus organization fighting hard every day here in Washington and across the nation for our seniors. So I'm urging you to choose AMAC now. You will receive all of the great membership benefits, including AMAC discounts on hotels, travels, and restaurants, and your membership will support your conservative values. So go to amac.us/Ellis. That's amac.us/ELLIS to become an AMAC member now. All right, so moving into the next biggest story over the weekend, this is incredible that in Pennsylvania now the FBI raided the home during the night of pro-life activist Mark Hoke, and he has 7 children at home. And under the cover of darkness, the FBI comes, knocks on his door, and has 25 or 30 FBI officers that come. And you would think, okay, what is this guy's alleged crime? Well, apparently a couple of years ago at a clinic, an abortion clinic, there's a man who is getting up in his face and his son's face, and is repeatedly calling them vulgar language. And Mark, like honestly any good dad, when he's getting into his son's face, kind of shoves him back. And the gentleman apparently alleged via civil suit that this was some kind of assault. It got kicked out of a civil suit. It was never even brought under state or county criminal charges. But now here is Joe Biden's FBI raiding this pro-life activist house. And it just reminds me, that the raids will continue until morale improves. That's kind of what it sounds like. So, of course, Pennsylvania, the next Pennsylvania governor, who, of course, is running for governor, Doug Mastriano, issued a statement by GP nominee Doug Mastriano regarding Biden's FBI raid of this young Pennsylvania family. And he said, quote, "The continued weaponization of the FBI and persecution by Joe Biden's DOJ against ordinary Americans is an outrage." He also said, "As governor, I will not allow the police state of Joe Biden to enforce his persecution against his political enemies on sacred Pennsylvania soil, not on my watch." So joining me now is the man himself, Doug Mastriano. And Senator, this is just an incredibly atrocious story. But even more than that, it is shocking to me that the sitting Attorney General of Pennsylvania is not commenting on the FBI's abuse of power here and wanting to protect his own citizens.
And I would expect my opponent not to comment on this because he's part of the problem. He's part of the police state. And let me back it up with facts instead of just a statement. That during the shutdown 2 years ago, Josh Shapiro sued to keep the kids masked up when there was no scientific reason to do so. And that was borne out by a Senate hearing that I participated in and showed the fraud in that. He sued every business owner in the state to keep them shut down. He sued the Little Sisters of the Poor because he disagreed with their religious beliefs and took them to the Supreme Court. And so I'm not surprised he's not speaking out about this. Now, imagine in what world is it okay to go after a guy for a possible misdemeanor that was thrown out of the second district court already anyway last year, but to go in with 30 law enforcement, about a dozen or 15 vehicles with guns. I'm just repeating what his wife said, with guns pointed at his face in the direction of his 7 children. That's the sort of things that operations we helped plan and conduct in Afghanistan against known insurgents who were heavily armed and defended by other insurgents. Those we called night raids. And you might have about 30 special ops or so in there, and maybe 15 or so vehicles. The only thing missing in its comparison is they didn't kick down the door, which probably would have happened had Mark delayed another minute or two opening it.
Wow, this is just an incredible overreach. And so, from the perspective of Americans who are frankly intimidated and frustrated and thinking, will I be next? What can the people of Pennsylvania expect from you when you are governor in order to make sure that you are protecting their rights from an overreaching Joe Biden federal government that is clearly out of control?
Yeah, on the one side here, let me approach it from several angles. Thank God that Mark de-escalated it. He did nothing provocative, because things could have got ugly. Obviously, we'd expect the FBI to de-escalate and not going in with overwhelming force. So I wish somebody that planned that operation would have waved the BS flag and said, "Wait a second, just send 2 vehicles and a couple agents there, and let's do this professional and not make a scene." I believe it was done to send a message to people with whom Merrick Garland disagrees with politically or Joe Biden disagrees with politically. This is the outgrowth of the speech that we saw from Biden last month and the policies of Merrick Garland going back over a year when he deemed parents at school board meetings domestic terrorists. And, a sign of white supremacism is having a Gadsden flag, don't tread on me. So here's the message for the people in Pennsylvania. Don't do anything stupid, even if you're confronted with this kind of stuff. The way you have the last word is of course at the ballot box. That's how we resolve this. That's why we have to win at the state level, my governor race. There's no more important race in Pennsylvania than winning the governor's seat. Number 2, of course, then we have to also win the Congress to rein in this federal overreach. That's how we do it. This is America. We have a constitutional republic, and they can be held accountable once we have governors and the Congress, with people like me there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is why, as you pointed out, elections matter, and especially why state elected officials matter, because for too long, we have seen that the American populace has almost ceded so much of the responsibility in their mind to the federal government to control everything. And state officials have done that as well. And they have allowed the federal government to encroach more and more and more on state sovereignty and on states' power that is given by the Constitution that's not specifically delegated. And so, we are seeing kind of this global movement. And I covered earlier in the show, how I really think that there is a red wave that's coming, because not just in America, but we're now seeing globally with the election of Italy's new prime minister. We're seeing, what's going on in the European Union, even in Great Britain. So many other places across the world that are rejecting this radical leftism. And, I was looking at this ridiculous headline from the New York Times that's trying to just say, Mastriano's campaign is not really doing much in Pennsylvania. That tells me, though, they're actually scared of you, and they know that your opponent is not a moderate. He's part of that radical leftism, and he will not debate you because he knows that he cannot defend his record for the people of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. So a couple things there. So first off, New York Times, and the Democrat Party writ large across the nation, if they weren't so worried about this race, they would just ignore it. And if they weren't so worried about it, they would not be pouring tens of millions of dollars into Shapiro's campaign. They're trying to buy the race, and it's not going to work. We have internal polling that shows in the deepest of blue counties in Pennsylvania, in the southeast around Philly and Pittsburgh, that over the past month, Josh Shapiro's lead of me, I've cut it in half. And I haven't even run ads yet. This is just a grassroots movement getting out the word in every county. And so we're having a huge impact and effect here. On the other side, they have every right to fear, because we're going to put the power back in the hands of the people where it belongs, constitutionally. As far as cooperating with what I deem as unconstitutional decisions by the Biden administration, I actually have legislation in the Pennsylvania Senate that would prohibit our law enforcement from cooperating in any fiats or mandates or executive orders that infringe upon our Second Amendment or other freedoms. There's a lot a governor can do, and we've seen that over the past few years, especially. Compare Pennsylvania with Florida. So my goal is to make Pennsylvania economically prosperous, and then also return the reins of power back in the hands of the people, as led by the people, for the people. And in the end, the desire is the Florida of the North.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're absolutely right, that the left is afraid of. They are afraid of returning power back to the people, to actually keeping government on a state and local and federal level limited to the powers actually provided by our supreme law of the land and by state constitutions. And so, the work that you have done as a senator shows your track record. Of course, you're a 30-year veteran of the United States Army. You have fought for this country, put your life on the line, and now to engage in politics and want to serve the people of Pennsylvania in the office of governor. You're exactly the type of person that the left fears, not because of any of the names that they're trying to call you or the other things that they want to distract the voters from, but because you're the champion that will actually protect and preserve their rights against all of those people. And that's what they can't stand. I mean, when Joe Biden is talking about anyone who is conservative or MAGA Republicans being, quote, semi-fascist, I mean, you always have to go back to the definitions and see, they're the authoritarians. They're the ones who they're in Pennsylvania, harnessed the pretext of COVID to use emergency powers that were so beyond the pale, that were keeping kids in masks, that were shutting down and shuttering small businesses. And they can't defend that. The left cannot defend that. So they have to just hope that the media will do their dirty work for them. And so what is your message to the people of Pennsylvania coming into the last, 40 plus days in this campaign? But early voting, of course, does start here in just a few weeks. What is your message to Pennsylvania voters about how important this election is?
It's everything. We are the Keystone State. And so as such, the key to the future of America and our hopes and dreams and maintaining this republic of freedom and liberty is in the hands of the people of Pennsylvania. So instead of waving your fist, complaining at the water cooler, vote, be active, go to dougforgov.com, sign up, volunteer, donate. We're not getting a lot of love from the national level Republican organizations. So it's up to the people to fund my campaign, which I think is actually a better approach. It would be nice to get help from the powers that be, but the people, this is a movement of and by and for the people. You've seen it. You've been with Rebbe and I out there. As to the debates, is interesting. The Democrats have the same playbook nationally. So Josh Shapiro has been our attorney general for 6 years. He has an extensive record that he can't run from. He's running from his record, and therefore he's running from the debates. So we've offered him numerous platforms and means and methods to do a debate, and he's absolutely refusing to do this, just as the Democrats are refusing in Arizona, just as they're refusing in Maryland. And additionally, add another page of their playbook, which we've seen is call your opponent, radical, extreme, what have you. They're using the same tactic in Arizona and Maryland, even in Georgia in regard to Governor Kemp. I mean, seriously, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, 100%. And, and I think that we are going to see the momentum that we saw in your primary for the voters that will come out, that will support you. I think they're going to support Kari Lake in Arizona, Tudor Dixon in Michigan, and Dan Cox in Maryland, and, all of these really critical states. And of course, Ron DeSantis, again, running for re-election in the great state of Florida. Everyone is seeing that Florida is thriving. And the reason for that is because, Ron DeSantis is just saying, no, federal government, I'm going to run my state according to the powers and the separation of powers that our constitutional system is designed for. And I'm really looking forward to that in Pennsylvania, and to see that state get massively cleaned up from, the crime-ridden Philadelphia examples that we've just seen in the last, even 48 and 72 hours, from, all of the voting irregularities to making sure that the voting rolls are up to date. I mean, just a few things like Josh Shapiro, your opponent, was just on MSNBC during the weekend shows and actually complained about the fact that you've promised to look at the law, look at the voter rolls, as if that's some kind of, major oh no, that just proves he doesn't want free and fair elections. He doesn't care.
Yep. It's very telling. The senior law enforcement official of the state here doesn't like enforcing the law. We saw lawlessness in Mayfair area of Philadelphia this weekend at Wawa, where 20, 30 individuals came in and just wreaked havoc like it was some kind of third world country. That's life in Pennsylvania under Josh Shapiro. On his watch this year, we're looking at 1,000 carjackings or attempted carjackings in the southeast, mostly Philadelphia. We're talking about record high homicides, pushing 600 potentially by the end of the year. Nearly a 40% increase in crime, all on his watch. So he is actually too dangerous for Pennsylvania. He doesn't care about the people of the state. That's why he sued every parent to keep your kids masked up. Remember that Josh is part of the problem, and the solution is not waving our fists in the air, and doing anything stupid. The answer is getting off our rear ends and volunteering and helping out my campaign so we can actually win. The people of Pennsylvania will have the last word. We could turn the corner on this on 8 November here and indeed have a new birth of freedom.
Amen to that. And so everyone listening, please go to Doug4Gov, the number 4, Doug4Gov.com. You can, if you're outside the state of Pennsylvania and you want to help, you can donate. If you are inside the state of Pennsylvania, please volunteer, please donate as well, and just come out and support. And the greatest thing, of course, that you can do is vote and encourage your friends, your family, everyone at your church, in your communities to get out and vote, because as you just said, Senator, the last word will be the people of Pennsylvania. And I do believe that Pennsylvania wants to walk as a free people, as your campaign has suggested, which isn't just a slogan. I mean, that is something that is actually true, that we do need to walk as a free people under God and under the rule of law that our country is designed for. So I really appreciate your time today. And thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you back in Pennsylvania soon.
Thank you for having me on. God bless.
God bless. Thanks.
Legacy Precious Metals is the company that I trust to give you good and patient counsel for investing in your retirement. The Biden administration has caused a financial crisis, and they have no clue how to fix it. Oil prices have skyrocketed, and when oil prices go up, not only do your expenses go up, but the cost of transportation and shipping spikes, leading the prices of goods to rise. And we are already seeing record inflation. That's the last thing that we need. Our economy is in trouble, and you need to take steps to protect yourself. If all your money is tied up in stocks, bonds, and traditional markets, you may be vulnerable. So gold is one of the very best ways to protect your retirement. No matter what happens, you own your own gold. It's real, it's physical, and it's always been valuable since the dawn of time. Call Legacy Precious Metals today at 866-528-1903 or visit them online at legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com, where you can download the free investor's guide. You can also go to my Facebook page, Jenna Ellis. I am a public figure on Facebook, and I just posted yesterday a really great interview with the president of Legacy Precious Metals, who is discussing why you need to start your retirement account even if you're in your 20s or 30s. There is always a great time to protect your retirement and invest, just like you want to protect your health over the long term. So go to Legacy Precious Metals at legacypminvestments.com or call 866-528-1903.
Always so excited when our good friend Representative Jim Jordan can join with all of the updates from across the country, really, because he's so involved in everything that is conservative and fighting the good fight in Washington. And Representative Jordan, you are joining me from the road today, which, it seems like you're just talking everyone from Congress and everyone who's campaigning really hard for the midterms. It seems like everybody is on the road. So thanks for making time today.
You bet. Thanks for all you do for the cause of freedom.
Thank you. And you as well. And, I wanted to highlight a couple of things here and get your takes on this. So first, the whistleblowers and the FBI. I mean, you've been focused on this. And I think, with all of the news, a lot of people are still asking me, what is really going on with that?
Well, the Justice Department is political now. I mean, they're going after their political opposition, and we've had over 14 whistleblowers come talk to us about this. The first ones were on the school board issue where they treated parents as domestic terrorists. We know they put this threat tag label, designation on parents' names. We know they invested over a dozen parents. Didn't find any crime, but they investigated. Talk about the chilling impact that has on your First Amendment free speech rights. And now it's we've had a number come forward and say there's this push to both juice the numbers and cook the books and label cases and make it appear that there are all kinds of domestic violent extremism cases around the country, including the way they're cataloging the January 6th investigation to make it look like there's a extremist behind every door in every city around and it's agents coming forward, good agents who have the courage to come forward as whistleblowers and tell us this is what's going on. And they're so focused on this narrative. We've had one tell us that that they're pulling agents off of investigating child abuse cases to focus on this narrative that Joe Biden put out when he called half the country fascist and extremists.
Wow, this is just incredible. And, it reminds me of how they inflated a lot of the COVID numbers and, they wanted to create a narrative around that. It seems like the Democrats are always just manufacturing manufacturing evidence and theories and mislabeling things and intentionally like what they're doing with social media to say, take down misinformation and label it this way to create their own issue. So, what with these agents coming forward, and of course, heading into the midterms, what's the plan to address this?
Well, the first thing is we have a constitutional duty to do oversight and do the investigation so the country gets the truth. And we are committed to do that. I thought the leader, McCarthy, had a great line today. He said, our job is to work for you, not come after you. And for those who are coming after we, the people, the citizens of this country, it is our job, if we're in the majority, to do those investigations and expose what's going on and hold those individuals accountable as much as we can from the legislative branch. Ultimately, if there's been criminal wrongdoing here, that'll be a call for the Justice Department. But yeah, our job is to get the truth out there. We're committed to doing that. We're committed to doing the investigations that need to be done in the committee that I hope to get a chance to lead. If in fact the people of this country give us the majority, we're going to focus on the border issue and on this issue of the political nature of the Justice Department and investigate what exactly and how really just how bad it is. We want to make sure the country fully understands what's going on.
Yeah, and that's so incredibly important, and it just highlights and underscores the importance of everyone in every state that is listening right now to get out and vote, because majorities do matter, to give you that ability to hold a co-equal branch accountable. And so speaking of that, we're seeing also the weaponizing of the DOJ and the FBI when it comes to the Mar-a-Lago raid. And, with everything that came out from the 11th Circuit this week, which I, of course, disagreed with that opinion, it seemed like the judge panel in that case, even though two were Trump appointed, fine. They seem to not have the same concerns about the leaks and the ability or just the lack of responsibility of the DOJ's taint teams to be able to appropriately categorize and segregate privileged material. So, what is your take on the scope of this problem of just targeting their political opponents from school, from parents who are concerned about kids in school to Donald Trump?
No, you've captured it. It is broad, and you have to view it in context. So think about just the last 6 weeks, though. In the last 6 weeks, the Biden DOJ has raided the home of a former president, taken the phone of a sitting member of Congress. The inspector general at the Justice Department, who's supposed to provide independent oversight according to the statute, actually participated in imaging the phone of that member of Congress whose phone was taken by the Justice Department. The president of the United States said that half the country is fascist and extremist. And of course, he signed legislation which will unleash 87,000 IRS agents to come harass the taxpayers of this nation. So that all happened in a 6-week time period. That is frightening, particularly when you couple it with the history at the Justice Department of what they did in 2016 and 17 when they spied on President Trump and his campaign, the Mueller report that was caused by Comey leaking the memos that then the head of the FBI learn now with the school board situation and from these other 14 whistleblowers that that is a frightening scenario, but that's what's going on. And so when the leader said that our job is to work for the American people, not have government investigate the American people, that is so true. And we need to hold those people accountable who are. And frankly, we need to make sure, and the leader announced this, our first piece of legislation we're going to pass if the American people put us in the majority. First thing we'll pass out of the House is to get rid of those 87,000 IRS agents that the Democrats want to have harass the American taxpayer.
Yeah, and I think everyone has really supported that and is very encouraged that that Kevin McCarthy came out and said that, and hopefully, he'll have that opportunity. And looking at Joe Biden's speech and seeing calling the American people, 50% of us who support MAGA, who support America First, as semi-fascists and domestic terrorists and all this, then you have someone who is a Democrat in North Dakota who allegedly purposefully and intentionally killed an 18-year-old kid just because he's a Republican. Yeah. So, is there any thought or consideration in Congress, if you gain the majority in November, to open an investigation against Joe Biden for inciting violence? I mean, this seems like this is exactly what he wanted.
Well, what happened in North Dakota is just tragic. But I don't think it's lost on anyone that the language that this evil individual used when he attacked and killed this young man with his automobile, the language he used is basically the same language the President of the United States used. He called this individual a Republican extremist. That's in essence what Joe Biden is called, as you pointed out, Jenna, roughly half the country. So I think this is problematic. Of course, the mainstream press never covers that. They're too focused on calling everyone else extremists and writing about those things. But this is serious. I think what we have to do is focus on those issues at the Justice Department where they're so political now, and make that the primary focus, particularly of the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah. And, it's the irony is not lost on anyone, I think, who's actually been following this, that the January 6th committee, which of course is not even properly composed, and they have so many other problems with just how they're going about that alleged oversight, saying that Donald Trump perpetuated this so-called attack on the Capitol because he said, exercise your First Amendment constitutional protected right to peacefully and patriotically protest. And then you have Joe Biden, who is actually inciting violence, and the Democrats don't even care about it.
Yeah. Look, we know about the January 6th committee, first committee in history that is completely partisan, first committee in history where there's no real cross-examination element. The minority party was not allowed to have on that committee the individuals they wanted. A committee, because of the way it was set up, a committee that we've caught in numerous lies. They've lied about you. They've lied about me. They've lied about Bernie Carrick. They lied about my colleague Barry Loudermilk on his tour. They lied about Secret Service agents. I mean, and this is amazing to me. We've caught them in 8 different lies, and those are just the ones we know about because we don't get to see the evidence. We don't get to be in the depositions and talk to the witnesses that are being brought in. And the witnesses they haven't given us the transcript. So imagine how many other false things they are telling us. So I think the country sees it. But what else are the Democrats going to talk about, Jenna? I mean, right. I always say I think this election is really about. I say the 4+1, 4 big issues plus freedom. And the 4 big issues are: we went from a secure border to no border. We went from energy independence to the president begging OPEC to increase production. We went from stable pricing to a 41-year high inflation rate, and we went from safe streets and safe cities to record levels of crime. So those are the key issues. And while that was all happening to you, your family, and your community, guess what else the Democrats were doing? They were coming after your First Amendment liberties, your Second Amendment liberties. They're weaponizing the government to go against you. They're telling you that you don't get to dictate what kind of education your child gets. We, the government, do. And they're coming after your liberty. So that's what this campaign's about. If you want more of that garbage, vote Democrat. If you want to change that, vote Republican.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. And we're seeing in not only statewide offices, but even in congressional races and, Democrats all across the country that refuse to debate their Republican opponents. I mean, I can think of three governor's races off the top of my head where, the Republicans are literally begging the Democrats to get on the stage, and they won't, because they know, what are they going to say? They can't defend their own policy, much less, their national leader who looks like he's not even remotely aware of what's going on and remotely competent. But but a lot of people are saying that a lot of these races are within the margin of error. I mean, it's shocking to me that some of the polls came out saying that Ron DeSantis is only 4 points ahead of Charlie Crist in the state of Florida that a ton of people are moving to. I mean, I just don't buy that. Do you think that there's any concern about the polls being so far inflated from the Democrats, and how should people respond to that?
Well, I mean, look, I think if we go out in a confident way, not an overconfident way, but in a confident way, talk to the American people about what our commitment is, if in fact they give us power and put us in the majority, if we talk to them about what Joe Biden has done, and we recognize the fact that, right now, 7 to 8 out of 10 of our fellow citizens think the country's on the wrong track. I tell people all the time, why is it that a majority of the country thinks Joe Biden is doing a bad job? They think that because he is. And so we need to go out and campaign in an aggressive way, in a confident way. If we do that, I think we're going to win. Again, I don't know that we need to get all focused on what the polls are saying, 46 days out. It's kind of important, but what really counts is, what happens on election day. I think it was Reagan who said, it's not the reviews that count, it's what happens at the box office. And that's probably, I think, the right kind of attitude. Let's just work hard, run hard, talk about what we're going to do, and talk about the crazy things they've done and how we're going to hold them accountable if we get power.
Yeah, 100%. And last question I have for you, Jim Jordan, and I really appreciate your time here. Speaking about Election Day and getting out and making sure that our vote counts, the House just recently passed the update on the Electoral Count Act, which appeared to be the same language that was, the Cheney-Lofgren kind of subset of all of that. What is your take overall on that particular amendment?
Well, I voted against it. I think it's just completely wrong. Look, we have the statute in place, and I just think it's interesting that the Democrats make this so focus on January 6th and the investigation, and yet and say that this all happened. It was a violation, but now they want to change the law. Just sort of interesting to me. So we all voted against it on the House side. Most of the Republicans, I think there were a handful who supported it. We'll see what happens on the Senate, but the real focus has got to be holding people accountable who've been targeting Americans, using the awesome power of government to target Americans, and fixing those 4 big issues, which is what we're going to be focused on.
Yeah, well, excellent. Well, best wishes to you. Thank you so much for fighting for the cause of freedom. Always appreciate you coming by with an update, and look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenna. Take care.
And I want to ask you now to donate to Food for the Poor United in God's Work. Hurricane Fiona has pummeled the Caribbean with devastating winds, catastrophic flooding, and widespread power outages. Food for the Poor has been serving the poorest nations in that part of the world for more than 40 years, and they are responding again now. So during this time of crisis, hurricane relief kits containing food, water, hygiene kits, medical supplies, and other critically needed items are already being distributed throughout Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti. You can support this effort by giving your best gift now. Please just text Jenna to 91999, and we have this up on the screen for you for those who are watching on Rumble and YouTube, and we'll send you a link to give. So text Jenna, Jenna, to 91999. Families have lost everything and need our help. Anything you can do will help Food for the Poor to bring aid to these families. Just text Jenna to 91999 and we'll send a link so that you can give. This is one of the largest faith-based international relief agencies in the United States, and Food for the Poor is able to respond quickly and efficiently to disasters like this. But they can't do it without your generous support, so thank you in advance for giving what you can now.